We are here to discuss innovation and scale up. And we have a particular focus here because we have startup companies on the panel, a very distinguished panel. And we are focusing on the question of what are the opportunities and what are the challenges of scaling up innovation in the construction sector from the perspective of a young startup company. That's the focus. So let me introduce the panelists. To my left here, Paco Gómez Escofet. He is the hub leader and founding member of the International ConTech Network, a non-profit that promotes innovation in the startup ecosystem. To his left, Anna Lozano, CEO and co-founder of NIDUS Lab, which offers digital solutions for the whole pre-construction planning phase, and she will explain later what that means. To her left, Víctor Muntes. He is working on agentic AI for risk management in construction. So very important, we heard that this morning. To his left, Alejandra Manzanares. We are colleagues at the EIB. She is investment officer in our lending directorate, and her focus is clean tech. And she has worked a lot with financing product that is particularly suitable for scaling up innovation, which we call venture debt, and we will hear more about that later. To our left, Pol Merino. He is CEO and co-founder of HONEXT, which is a circular building materials company. And to his left, Suvi Sell, CEO and co-founder of AISTI, which I learned is AI in sound transmission index. Exactly. So very interesting acoustic materials sustainably made. We will hear more about that now. So, Paco, if I may start with you. You have this overview of the entire ecosystem of startup companies, innovation in the construction sector. What, from your point of view, are the benefits of having such an ecosystem of small companies that are innovating, and what are the challenges that these companies are facing?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I think this is a great event, an event when political side and let's say the industry side can meet, which is something unique, very important. I think Elena said that in the previous table, and I think it's very important to remark that and trying to do that more times, because we need to speak with the people that decide part of our lives. Answering your question, I would like to start explaining a little bit what we've done in the Barcelona ConTech Hub and then the International ConTech Network. I will go a little bit off limits and then I will go inside so everybody can understand. This meeting is done in Barcelona. Barcelona is a city very known all over the world, and we have a lot of important assets. But maybe the biggest asset we have, the most important, is our football club team, okay? Which, by the way, is the best in the world. I mean, everybody can convene of that, okay? So due to that, many people come to Barcelona, go to Barça and say, what do you do to make this big team and how many money you spend? And the answer is not that we spend a lot of money in Maradona or in Neymar, or no. We have a special place called La Masia, which is I was going to say where we find manufactured players. It's not the correct name, but it's where we promote players that are more talented. And then due to that, we can have Xavis, Iniestas, Messis, and lately Yamin Lamar. Okay. If we take that into what we do, in the Barcelona ConTech Hub, we did something very similar. We try to take these first projects from talented people, especially startups, that are willing to change the industry. Sometimes they are kind of lost. Sometimes they have abilities in the technical way, but not in the business way. And we try to unite. And as our general director in the last panel said, eTech is a place where we can provide them technical advice and also business advice. So that's what we do here. When we started answering a little bit your question, was nothing. It was like this, village in the Western movies that you see nothing, only wind and this. It was like that, the ecosystem 10 years ago. Now things are changing. Things are changing because the sector demands that, and I mean there's more. It's much more easy to present kind of projects in the construction sector. And scaling that in Paris 6 months ago, we, after a bar discussion with 7 or 8 beers, we said, wow, guys, is there something similar in the world? Are we really united? No, there's nothing in ConTech. ConTech is construction technology, the vertical of startups that is addressing construction. We said, no, there's nothing about that. And someone said, why don't we build something bigger? Why don't we unite all over the world? And why won't? Because it has a lot of benefits for startups, scaling, transfer technology. And they say, okay, let's do it. Now we, as a Barcelona Construction Hub, participate in this big network of hubs and associations, ConTech associations. It's based in Paris, as I said. We have 7 countries in Europe that have already joined us, and there will join more than 10 within the next 6 months. So we have created.
If I may ask, how many companies are in ConTech?
Companies?
Companies active.
If you say in Barcelona ConTech Hub, we have over 50 more or less, 40 and 50 that are interested in some different ways. No? So we have tried to put the spot in the startups and explain to the sector that we are doing a lot of things. Because answering your question, the ecosystem is growing fast, but we have a lot of work to do because we have started later than other industries. And the big problem that we found, especially in the part that we manage, which is the very early stage startups, is that this kind of entrepreneurs sometimes, or many of them, don't think that in construction there are opportunities, which is the opposite. So that is another thing that we try to do. Because the question is not what can we do to scale startups, because scale-ups, it's been said. I mean, if you want, I can give you 3 reasons, very important. But the thing is, how can we bring more startups to the ecosystem so that we have more opportunities, and occasionally we have our first or second unicorn in our sector, as we have in other sectors. Okay, so I don't know if I answered the question, but it was.
Maybe from your point of view, why are so few startups at the stage of really scaling up to something that is then brings the economies of scale that we heard about this morning?
I think it's what we said before, some of them not. First of all, financing these startups from venture capital is difficult because venture capital are business model, are financial models. And the investment that you need in many of the startups in the construction sector is not a SaaS, it's not a software. Software is very easy to invest, not much money, and very scalable. But if you want to build a machine to bring 3D projects, that requires much more money. So this is a big block. Secondly is what they've been said. The construction sector is not sexy. I mean, until now. So it's not sexy. We're very ugly. So people don't like to invite us to the big events or something like that. So we are changing, and the sector itself, it's been said also, is not very keen on adopting these new technologies, and altogether makes that this is not easy to scale comparing to another sectors. But things are changing, and that's a good news.
This is why we need to promote this segment also.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's come to you, Suvi. You have come from a company that is both digital but also asset heavy, capital intensive. Mm-hmm. Now we heard the hurdle is then even bigger in that area than if we talked only about a digital company. Mm-hmm. From your point of view, what are the barriers that hold back companies, or haven't you met any kind of barrier in your trajectory so far?
Yes, sure. We have met a lot of barriers, and most of them are related to financing. As stated here, I can agree to what Paco said earlier. Startup companies, they need funding, and especially if you are an industrial company wanting to build a factory, which means hardware and machinery, we need even more funding. So you need institutions, and you need the backup, you need the investors that that buy your business plan and that you can then proceed and to go to the market.
What is the timeline with which you are planning? Until which time in the future you basically know that you are going to be loss-making or cash negative? And when will such a capital-intensive investment become cash positive?
We started the financing round in 22, end of 22. The market changed dramatically. The interest rates went high. We thought that we would be finished by Christmas, but it was 2 years by Christmas that we finalized. We raised 29 million last year. We finalized the round. And with that money, we can build our first commercial factory to produce acoustic ceiling tiles. And that factory will be up and running 1 year from now, so next autumn. And we will be cash flow positive within 1 year. So that's the timeline for us.
It's already very much de-risked, I would say.
Yes.
Very good. Paul, turning to you. I mean, it's similar and not similar at the same time compared to Suvi's company. What are the challenges that you have met? This is entirely circular economy. This also has, we know, I have heard today, problems. What are the challenges that you were facing?
So our biggest challenge is that we wanted to design a circular model that was very scalable. And to do that, we chose to remain in the material section. And material versus product. Product is something you can install directly, and a material is something that still needs to be processed into a product. However, the potential volume of material is much larger. But the value, the sales channel, or as it was explained before, all the people you need to talk to and convince gets far more complex. This is the biggest challenge that we have faced. And it was said before, you need to be very simple to make sure that no manuals. I mean, the change, we talk a lot about innovation, but we're in a sector that wants new things that don't change anything. And this is a hurdle because the value is different for every single stakeholder, and it's very hard to really get that. The impact of that also, and said before, is it's a very long time to market and unpredictable. When you are in construction, projects are delayed. If you are innovation in many projects, you are if they overrun in budget, and as they are late, they tend to overrun, they cut you out. And so this is, I would think, the biggest hurdle. Then it's all, and linked to what Suvi just said, you need to scale it up. Affordability comes with scale. And how do you do that? If you have, let's say, a hard-to-prove pipeline, because it's very complex, but it's there. And I think in our case, we've done it as opposite to Suvi, where they've done it on their own. We've decided to actually join forces with large corporates. We upcycle away an industrial waste, and so we spent also 2 years negotiating with a very large German corporate, though family-owned company, to set up a joint venture to scale up the technology all over Europe. And this, for us, is part of the solution. It allows us to get into the needed scale to be able to offer volumes and long-term compete in price with existing players.
That means you compete on price. There is no premium for your green product.
There is. Innovation comes with a premium. And honestly, you need to finance it. And finance means that if you're loss-making for a year, you need to repay your investors, debt providers. So I think it's all around the ability to, in the long term, be able to compete in price. And that comes in our side. When you are industrial, there's a huge amount of industrial knowledge that adds a totally different, or differential element to that. That's also why we decided to partner with a very large industrial company to benefit from this. And I said, but we're not looking at, we don't call it green premium, it's innovation. Innovation comes with a risk, it's a game changer. During a period of time, you're not looking at the whole market, you're looking at very small niche. to fine-tune your market fit, to address your cost. And then in the mid to long term, you are established, and then you can be competitive in price with the alternative solutions.
So if I may ask you, also for your company, is teaming up with a larger construction company the way forward, the way to go, or are there different models?
Our cooperation model, we try to introduce partnerships with construction companies. So far, we haven't been able to succeed in that, but our target is that we will first build this first factory so that we can prove that the concept works and the technology works. And opposite to what Paul said, our target is to get into the market at the same price level, because we know that the price is the #1 criteria in the construction sector. So we try to change everything, but we keep the same price and we bring the same functionalities. So that's our target.
Yeah, thanks very much. Turning to you, Anna. Your company is now active in driving down costs. As far as I understand, I looked at a video that you posted some time ago where you said there's so much value to be gained from this pre-construction phase. This is where a lot of cost reduction potential lies. Maybe you can explain that, what that means and what you are offering there.
Yeah, sure, totally. If you allow me just first, it's a big responsibility to take the floor after a whole day like we had today with high-level debates. And the ones, giving closure to it, are the smaller players. But on the other hand, we have also a big opportunity here, is that what we have in common is that our motto is perfect is the enemy of done. And I think today we have discussed perfect. And now we are discussing done. So I wanted to add to that is, for sure, each one maybe covers a different part of the life cycle in the whole construction technology, which accounts for 5 times the market of PropTech technology, of PropTech. But what we are doing now is that, so assuming that the design phase accounts for less than 10% of the whole budget, but accounts for or drags 90% of the risk. So it's very important to understand that the decisions you are taking on a blank page are going to impact on your whole process. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to help every company, not only developers, but architects, engineers in different processes. And if we have the time, maybe later we are going to reflect on what this means for industrialization. Is that the decision, if you take smart decisions at the very beginning, you are going to have a more efficient, as we said before, so it reminds me our pitch, greener, smarter, fairer homes without losing architecture quality. So it is exactly what we've been focusing on by developing our own AI model, totally proprietary, which mostly tries to emulate the human process. So we want to keep the human in the loop, but we want to take the human error out of the loop.
Interesting. Of course, interesting to know which type of AI you are using there and where you get the training data for.
Yeah, so
please.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please,
you want
please,
to finish your question?
No,
actually, I don't know if there are many AI specialists in the room. So more or less now, as we all became Spanish, ¿cómo se dice? La alineación de la... Bueno, so in football, together with the football metaphor. So we all know everything we need to know about football, and we all know anything we need to know about AI. The big difference here, and I invite you all to do a very simple exercise. If you just draw a polygon on a page and you submit it on your preferred AI tool, and you ask how many lados, how many edges, how many sides this polygon has, in 95% of the cases, AI is going to fail. So this is a big barrier to try and bring together geometry and space and common conversational languages, LLM models in AI. So what we did in the first place, so we have unstructured data, we have silo data. We heard today fragmented sector, and also lack of transparency. It is something that arises today as a very important barrier. And on the other hand, we have the quality of the data we own is not very good neither, especially in the design phase, because most of the data we can gather comes from a human gut feeling or instinctive exercise. So there's a high risk of having corrupted models when we try to train them only over existing data, and also with a lot of bias. So what I try to go very fast to the point is what we've tried to do here is to algorithmize the process of designing. So we keep the best of what we do, and then we produce synthetic data that allows us to train through LLM for other roadmaps.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Victor, agentic AI for risk modeling, which this complements somehow both models, I would say, are complementary. So please tell us, what are you doing there specifically?
So everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, it's a tool until it takes the control, and then we'll have other problems. But for the moment, it's a tool. And therefore, the most relevant question always is, as any other tool, whether you're using it for the right purposes. So the purpose we are using it for, it's that we realize, so there is a report from KPMG, I think, where 78% of the construction companies said that they were concerned about the level of risk in construction raising for many different reasons, and the fact that there were no mitigation actions for that. So that was impactful for us, and we said, okay, why that's happening, why we are having this level of risk, and what are we doing about it? And what we saw is that there were many different aspects that were making this control of risk very complex. First of all, complexity. So the level of complexity in projects is growing. Why? Because regulations are getting more complex, because there is a larger number of mega projects. Complexity is growing in general. Okay, but you could still control data. But then we analyze the data, the digital ecosystems of construction companies, and we realize that there is a lot of data fragmentation. It happens in other sectors. It's not the only sector, but there is a lot of data fragmentation, and there is a very severe lack of interoperability among tools. So whenever you want to understand in a sector that we are working in, where we are working in silos, what's going on and have a transversal view, it was very difficult to grasp that specific aspect. So making decisions was very difficult. That means that companies are not always sharing information across projects. They are not leveraging data in the way they should, etc. So we said, okay, why don't we create a platform that allows you to, let's not talk about replacing tools, because if you get into the sector saying that you're going to...
This would have been my question. Are you replacing other? No.
No.
You are additional.
We are not replacing tools, because most companies have very well-established digital ecosystems. We are talking always to medium, large corporations in the sector, and they already have a digital ecosystem. So trying to build a business by replacing their tools, it's a hard task. It's very difficult. So basically what we are doing is a system that can connect to the existing digital ecosystem and collect evidence to enable continuous risk control. So risk management has been done in a very traditional way in this sector. So what that means is, sure, I need to do risk management. Risks are very important in my business, so I define what are my threats, what are my risks, preventive, mitigative actions. I approve the risk plan, I put it in a drawer, and maybe I review it every 6 months. And that's not how the world works anymore. So you need to enable continuous risk management. But the problem is that you don't have risk analysts in every site, in every place of your operation. So how you do that? And this is our mission. Our mission is to create a platform that is able to connect to your digital ecosystem and support you in doing risk management in a way that you don't need to be a risk management expert. You are the owner of operations, and what you need to do is making decisions. So you have to have a simplified risk management method that helps you make decisions. And here is where AI comes into the picture. Because if you want to simplify risk management, one of the specific aspects that you have related to risk management is that most of the information is coded as natural language, because you define what risk is, what threats are, what are the barriers, and they are all natural language. So
It's the same for you, Anna. Huh? It's also natural language.
No,
it's. You said unstructured data, but
no,
no.
Completely different tool.
Okay.
Yeah, and therefore that was a very interesting finding, because all of a sudden you can create an agentic system that helps you define what risk management, helps you do it in a visual way, but in a way that you can do it with people that have never done this exercise before, but the system supports you and helps you, suggests you potential threats, potential risks, etc.
How difficult it is to apply your systems? Because we talked about the skill issue that we have in the construction sector, plus the risk aversion to adopt innovation. Where do you see the problem of getting a wide adoption of your products?
This is a sector that I wouldn't call tech savvy. So precisely what we're trying to do is going through creating very human, natural interfaces, so conversational approaches, something that requires only having a conversation so that the system can provide value. And therefore, that's one of the keys of success or part of the success of our tool. The other one is that once you have connected all these systems, you need to be able not only to suggest, etc., but you need to do two things. First, provide seamless integration with the knowledge in other systems. And that's something we do, which is whenever you're defining your risks, we are able to look at the other projects who defined risks in a very similar way, say, hey, semantically, there is something else which is defined here, which is very close to what you're doing, but you're missing this piece and this piece. Do you want to add it? And all of a sudden you have seamless integration with all the knowledge in your organization. But second, prediction. It's not only about understanding what's happening, it's about being able to forecast what's going to happen, foresee what's going to happen. And there are many companies that are creating digital twins about infrastructures, buildings, etc. And what we realized is that in reality, the problem, and we have talked about this during the day today, is processes. There are many processes which are not efficient, they are not productive, with humans involved. So we said, okay, why don't we create a digital twin of a business process in such a way that we can start learning how the workflow works and predicting how it will work in such a way that we can predict when documents will be approved, we can predict when materials will be delivered in time, etc. And we can use this to enable continuous risk management.
It's only from my own experience, introducing a BIM for a new building is already challenging for many people. Now, a digital twin for a new building is difficult for many teams. Bringing in a digital twin of the entire process is even more complex. My view. Okay, but maybe
I don't want to take more time, but if you allow me later on, I can answer
No,
that.
I think we could talk probably the entire evening about it.
In our case, it's going to be super simple. It's completely different. It happens in a completely different way. We benefit from what we call the survivor bias. The impact of implementing our tool is so huge, you can't just skip it away. So just for you guys to give you some figures, for example, one of the technologies that goes directly into the industrialization, so some of the barriers of the industrialized companies. So we try to industrialize like cars, but each project is a prototype. So each fabrication of a precast needs hours, thousands of hours of engineer. Our tool will be able to produce thousands of square meters of facade panels coding for a robotic line to fabricate in minutes. So we are talking savings, thousands of hours of engineering. We are talking saving more than 35% of waste material. And we are talking about skipping human error. So when you translate this into ROI, which is something that today we've talked about it, but it's very important for companies. So they need to know there's an impact on the investment they are going to do on technology. It can really, really translate on big multipliers on profit and EBITDA. And this is the best way to convince something that they need to adopt technology.
So listening to you, I think it's a no-brainer to buy your products. then I guess financing is not an issue.
Actually, we've bootstrapped. We didn't need any external funding. So we've been funded by our clients, which is pretty nice for a startup. So we were profitable from minute one.
Okay.
We were born profitable.
This kind of profitable, but profitable.
Yeah, no, perfect. Because I wanted to bring in Alejandra, the question of financing, because this is what Suvi and Pol said. This is what we hear very often. But of course, digital business models are different. But Alejandra, from your point of view, what are the issues when we approach the financing of scale-up, from a startup to scale-up? And what are the risks we need to look at in particular?
Very good. So good afternoon. I think we have very different kinds of startups and scale-ups here. So in the clean tech team, what we're more focused on is helping those startups that want to internalize production, and they need to build something that is hardware in essence, and they have very long time to reach the market. And we are useful in helping them in funding their construction needs to be able to reach the market. But scale up is not just getting production capacities, reaching the market and convincing the market. You're bridging that period of time, in your case, with your digital products, but you still need to convince the market, and you will still need eventually financing to be able to create your sales force and to be able to sell. So with our financing, we're helping both types of clients. Maximo Almodóvar, who was speaking before, he's more focused on deep tech companies, and he's more focused on scaling commercial plans and teams to be able to go to market. In our case, in clean tech, what we're financing is ongoing research and development, because most likely your first clients still need your products to evolve, as well as pilot plans, first-of-a-kind facility, or even eventually you decide to pivot your business model and you want to come into a leasing model where you want to lease your tiles and your boards to make your product truly circular, and maybe you want to come back, bring back your product, and we're able to finance that first capital of bringing a leasing business model. So it's all thanks to the InvestEU guarantee from the Commission. We are in essence an equity investor, but we dress it up as a loan. We adapt the loan to the needs of each startup, but in order to all think in the same way, we have an equity kicker, meaning that we all seek the same goal, which is increasing your fair market value and getting there to the market. I think it's a useful product. It's a bit difficult to go through an EIB due diligence. It's also useful because it lands your ideas into what's doable. That's how we de-risk projects. We go step by step and make sure that each step is a tranche of a loan with specific conditions precedent for disbursement, because we want you to do that planning and achieve those milestones. Maybe it happens that you don't draw the whole loan because you have reached the market before and you don't need us. But it's these first steps that EIB, I think, is useful. And it's also useful because it crowds in other investors. It's a quality of stamp and allows other investors to identify you from others. And also you have, and because we also want to support companies that have a lead investor. We not often have bootstrap companies, but maybe you have convinced your customers that allow you to design very good contracts in the long term that allow us to give you a better financing. But we're more useful when you have raised the Series A equity. We don't want to get the whole fair market value. We want to crowd others. We want to make sure you have a chance to compete. And I hope it's useful, and I wish you all the best. And if you need help, we're there.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions from the audience at the moment? Somebody who would like to ask a question? No, that doesn't. There's one.
Well, I don't want to make questions with Paul. I only want to ask. President
Two interesting, thanks for the comment. Two interesting questions. One is this long lead time seems to be more attached to your business models compared to the digital business model. But what are the hurdles that we need to work on to reduce this lead time from the point of view of customers, or customers, your clients, so to speak? And the second point, US, I mean, you mentioned it in the context of pharma, but I also wonder, do we have the same problem, Paco, in the US? Do ConTech companies have the same issues that we are discussing here now, if you look at other
I don't think
parts?
so.
No.
I think in the United States, people are more takes more chances in risk, and we've been in Boston 15 years ago in a program that we have built for companies on the sector for innovating construction, and we stood in the MIT and Harvard, and you feel there that people just if they see that they have an opportunity, they go. It's true that the United States is big, and so they have a big market inside where they play. Also, the funding, the private funding, it's bigger than here. And also, regulations used to be less aggressive than here. So all of that makes an ecosystem that in ConTech, 85%, nearly 80 or 85% of venture capital funding in the world in ConTech is in the United States.
Yeah. So that's basically the same picture that we see also in other sectors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. If I may ask the other panelists, coming from the startup companies, is regulation a big issue? Because we have heard it a couple of times today. Is regulation here in Europe too strict? Paul?
If I may, so on our case, and I think, let me make an intro. We've talked a lot about wood or timber as a solution to decarbonize the industry. That's true, but that means increasing the amount of wood we are using, which puts a lot of importance in the cascade use of wood. You don't need wood to make some panels that just are standing in a wall. Virgin wood, you can work with a recycled wood for that. And for instance, I wrote that this is tissue paper. This is made out of a tree and it will end up in a toilet. This is made out of recycled paper. So actually it's been cardboard before, now it's that. It still end up in a toilet. But it's very important to think of the cascade use of wood. Virgin wood is not the solution. Wood or cellulose itself is an amazing component. It absorbs CO2 when it's created. It's biodegradable and it's easily recyclable. But we need to look really at the cascade impact of that. That brings me to your question on regulation. We work with waste. We upcycle the end of the fiber. I mean, when you make tissue paper, what is called the fines, but something no one can use, normally it's incinerated, that's what we upcycle into fire retardant fiber boards. That means dealing with waste. And when you want to set up a factory, because that's what we are, and that's what to the question on the lead times, it's mainly the factory. A factory, there's permits, there is the build time, and you're looking at 3 to 5 years. And following to Alejandra's point, and there you still will need to adjust the product. So you're looking at least 5 years of loss making, and that takes a lot. But starting with the fact, where can you upcycle waste in Europe? No one wants a company dealing with waste. So where can you? We all want recycled materials, but regulation does not allow us to set the facilities where they need to be. And this is really a big struggle.
In an interview that you gave some time ago, you said this cradle-to-cradle approach that you have is important, exactly what you just described. But then you said the certification that you need in Europe is one of the main issues.
Yeah.
Is this what's holding you back? So do we need to change the certification process for your products?
To the cradle-to-cradle, which is obviously a voluntary certification for that, we designed an industrial process from scratch. We wanted to make it sustainable, and what we decided was to look at the highest or more restrictive certification for us is cradle-to-cradle and embed all the principles of this in how we design process and products. This way, we ensure product and process circularity by design. When we refer to to certificates, it's a risk-averse market. So when you go with innovation, the way to release the fears is to go with a lot of certificates. Before, the head of iTech explained the EAD process. When there is no harmonized standard, you need to set one of your own. In paper, that takes 2 years. In our case with iTech, it took us 6 years from the moment we did that until the moment we could get the CE marking. And the CE marking is what the customer understands. It has to be simple. So yes, it is, because that's an added value. But to Peter's point, you need the resilience to last for 6 years to get to the moment where the market fears are released. So I think for innovation, we need to lose a bit the requirement certificates, probably add more, be on top of it. We are very open, we are transparent, we're happy to have people and auditors coming and checking. So we may have models where we have more audits on a more regular basis, we can share data. But if you're asking us to follow the standards, actually the standards many times are made to avoid innovation. And so this goes back then to the initial point on the long
So this will be one area where we need to to start working on. Suvi, for you, it's similar, or are there other parts of the path to your customer that hold you back?
For our product, there are no specific certificates. We need CE marking for the production line, and we need the EPD, the product declaration, to show the ecological footprint of our product, and that's basically it. So I think that also regulation can support innovation in a way that if we think about the construction sector, by bringing in regulation that would demand materials that have lower carbon footprint, that also helps companies such as IST that can help in that process, so that we just need the property owners and the developers that they make changes to the tendering process, so that it's not only the price that they look after, it should be also the sustainability side, and that should be put as also an important factor.
This is also, I think, one of the takeaways from today, which is procurement.
Just one thing.
Yeah, please.
Regulations should be quicker, less aggressive. It should be regulations. I think regulations should be. But also, another problem is that we have 1,000 regulations, local, regional, in countries, and in Europe, harmonized. So I don't know if European or any authorities in the European Union can have this power to say, okay, guys, we're not going to make one thing, and then you will have the European requirement, and then you have the Spanish or French or requirement, and then in Barcelona they have their own requirements. So if you want to innovate, I mean, it's like a Sudoku. Do you know what a Sudoku is? It's something like that.
If I can add to that, it's not only the number and the layers of regulation, it's the administrative process of surveillance that makes it very complicated. Can you
give an example?
Yeah, I'm going to give an example so far. There was a question in the previous panel on how you can digitalize zoning. So I don't know if Miguel Pinto is still here from the cluster. I had the occasion to lead a think tank on how to apply AI on zoning in Madrid area. And we were working with all the stakeholders involved. So not only administration, but private sector, notary, register, everybody, lawyers, architects, engineers, everybody involved in that. And the first analysis we ran was that 80% of the workflow in Spain, for you guys to know, planning approval can take between 20 and 30 years. So this is incredibly harming because the architecture evolves, society evolves, we need to do other things. And with very old born plans, sometimes it's very difficult. And we ended up concluding that 80% of the time wasted in these 20, 30 years were only a lack of communication, a lack of information between different administrations at different levels, trying to get together in something that could be done very easily if the tools were there, if the processes were there. So it's not even about AI, it's not even about digitalization, it's about knowing exactly what the path is, taking out the uncertainty, and also that avoiding that the ultimate officer, public officer, gives his opinion and wants the rule applied in a certain way. So I think for us, and we haven't talked about today about the AI Act, which is making a fuss in the whole industry and why Europe is regulating more than the United States. I am a firm believer that legal construction is an enabler and a leverage of innovation. So I don't think AI is a problem itself. AI Act is a problem itself.
But the AI Act, if I may, is only basically this risk classification. And I guess most of your models will be low risk. So don't need to be monitored closely all the time. I guess so, from what you told us.
It's an extended vision.
Yeah, I don't see an issue if we are talking about regulations that affect us as software producers. And I see an opportunity in those regulations affecting our customers, because if they are done properly, they help them standardize operations across projects. And that's the ramp for us to be able to scale up. Because otherwise, if operations are not standardized across projects, across sites, it's very difficult to create a business model that is able to scale up fast. Okay. So regulation can slow down innovation, but can also accelerate it. It depends on how it's structured. So I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing.
But what you are saying, if my take, if you already started to digitalize the process in order to accelerate the communication between the different stakeholders in this process, even that would be a major achievement. If you then put on top of that, whatever you call it, AI components, this is then even much, much better. But you in your digital sectors, you are not constrained by regulation as such. It is more your customer sectors that are constrained.
We have our own constraints in terms of security, privacy, etc. No, for instance, I don't know in your case.
I think it's more about the capacity to scale when you need to adapt the product to different climates, to different fire protection regulations, and so on and so forth. If you take the automobile metaphor, nobody could even understand that a company would build a different car to be sold in Sweden, apart from the wheel side, which is something quite weird that is kept. But nobody would think that the insulation of the car would be different when sold in Sweden, in Italy, or in the United States, or whatever. So it's understanding the gap on how we want to behave as the planes construction sector, aeronautics, automobile, etc. And we still are keeping something that is very particular to architecture and real estate. So this is the balance that it needs to be found there.
Interesting points. Unfortunately, we have to conclude here, and so we have to catch a plane. I think a very interesting discussion. For me, also some insights that I didn't have before. Thank you very much, and please join me in thanking the panelists for their contributions.